Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Illumi Stories. Tonight, we're going to look into the tragic case of Ho Song-an, a young man who fell to his death from the 9th floor of an office building. The only reported witness to Song-an's death was an individual that we will name K for this video's purposes. K was a neighborhood acquaintance. K told those around him that Song-an had committed suicide. K stated that Song-an committed suicide because he was bullied and ostracized by his peers. Song-an's older brother did not take K's explanation of the events as the end-all, be-all truth. And so, he did some investigation. Eventually, he ran into security camera footage of the night that Song-an passed away. And what he found, well, let's just say it just opened up a million more questions. Now guys, just a heads up, today's case is a lot heavier and more serious than the vast majority of the clips that I've ever done. So, if you're okay with that, let's go. Now, to give you guys a little bit of a background, Ho Song-an was described by witnesses as a bright, positive, cheerful individual with a lot to live for. He had just turned of legal age and was very excited that he had got his driver's license. He told his parents that he would cherish his driver's license, forever. Stated that his dream was to be a media personality, such as a YouTuber. Now, the other key individual in this case, K. K, like I said, was the only reported witness of the events surrounding Song-an's death. K was an older individual, and witnesses state that he was a bit scary. He was a lot bigger than Song-an, more physically imposing. He had tats all over his body, and some witnesses state that they didn't necessarily have a friend relationship, but that it seemed more like a master-servant relationship, with K doing the bossing around. There's a witness statement saying that K would, take personal belongings from Song-an and, basically take it for himself. It kind of sounds like that classic gray area between friend and bully, right? Oh yeah, if I didn't mention it, K was also a hyung to Song-an. In this context, hyung would just mean, an older guy. It's older brother, but not in the literal sense of a brother. It's just like an older friend. Now, let's go into the night of the incident. Song-an had planned, and actually did go to, a bar to meet up with friends. In that bar was K. Witnesses also state that Song-an had other plans, in and around that incident. So basically that they state that they think that he had the intent to meet up with other people and socialize, okay? Now, eventually it's stated that Song-an desired to leave. He desired to leave the bar. Witnesses state that he looked tired, okay? Now, in and around that time, he had a bit of an interaction with K when he actually wanted to leave the bar. And we're gonna watch a little bit of the footage from that little interaction or exchange. Now, to preface this video, the guy on the left, from our point of view, is Song-an, and the guy on the right is K. Okay, Song-an standing up. It looks like K is whacking him. Sunghan, it looks like Sunghan's trying to leave, but he got dragged back. Sunghan literally tried to yank himself out of that situation. Did you see that second grab? The first grab, K holds him, and Sunghan kind of tries to leave. But obviously, we don't know what happened, but, it looks like Sunghan tried to leave. But then he gets yanked back, okay? It's not far-fetched to think that K is the one who yanked him back. Most people don't go like this when they go back, okay? It looked like he literally got just like, whop! He got tug of war back. So, like I said, witnesses stated that it seemed like Sunghan wanted to leave, but then they had this incident with K. Witnesses also state that a bar employee tried to kind of get in the middle of them, presumably to, stop whatever little, tussle or interaction was going on. Okay, guys? So this happened in the bar. Let's see what happened afterwards outside, because there's video footage of what actually happened outside as well after this. Sunghan is literally running, and K is running right behind him. That looked like almost like a full-on sprint. That literally looked like a full-on sprint from both of them. A witness statement would also, show that Sunghan apparently had some sort of leg injury that made it hard for him to full-on run or sprint. But here we see that he's doing that. Did he have a reason for doing that? Did he feel some type of way that he felt like he had to full-on run despite having an injury? Now, we just saw them run outside. Eventually, they ended up at the office building from which Sunghan fell from to his tragic death. Sunghan ended up on the 9th floor, and according to witness testimony and K as well, K ended up on the 9th floor. There is a type of footage that was obtained in or around the time that Sunghan and K would have and could have been there. Okay? There's footage, and it's not direct footage of the two, but it could shed light into what was going on between them in that office building on the 9th floor. Let's take a look. You see shadows. They're not staying still. The shadow movement looks very active, almost as if there's some sort of physical back and forth going on. You guys saw that, right? There's a lot of movement in the shadows. What was going on? K claims that Sunghan was depressed. But, it's not far-fetched to say that K yanked him back from leaving the bar, and that something was going on between them in that office building. Along with the fact that Sunghan was full-on sprinting ahead of K. Now, there were people in the building on the floor in and around the time that Sunghan and K were in there. And they said they heard what was going on outside. Witness statements state that it sounded like there was some sort of reprimanding going on. It wasn't a discussion. It sounded like almost like a father berating or disciplining his child. Now, from here, we don't have any more footage, guys. We don't. However, Sunghan's older brother, in his investigation, went to the exact spot on the 9th floor of where Sunghan would have fell from. He says that the height that the window is at would be very difficult for Sunghan to easily just hop on and jump out of. So we don't know exactly how he fell from that window. Of course, if we knew, that would unlock, just about, all of the mystery of this case. But we just don't know. Sunghan was eventually found on the ground. When a third individual came, the person says that he or she saw Sunghan on the floor and saw K saying stuff to him on the floor or ground. Now, after Sunghan had his tragic fall, it stated that K berated Sunghan's peers, stating that he had committed suicide because of them, because they ostracized him and they bullied him. His friends, when asked, state that they have no idea what he's talking about. Sunghan was never bullied or never ostracized. Now guys, last time I checked, the police have stated Sunghan's cause of death as unknown. Sunghan's brother states that he can't even fully mourn or be sad for Sunghan because there's been no closure as to his death. Now that about wraps up the material facts in this case, guys. Obviously, that wasn't all of the facts, but I think it constitutes a good amount of the material facts for us to at least start thinking about this case. Now, put your lawyer caps on, because we're gonna start doing some analysis. What if an outside person, namely K, had some effect as a cause in Sunghan's death? So if a prosecutor just got this case file on their desk, how would they start thinking? Obviously, K could potentially be one of the suspects. What would they do to get a case going against them? Now guys, in South Korea and the United States, the burden of proof in criminal trials is beyond a reasonable doubt. That means that the prosecution has to prove their case, they have to set forth evidence, and convince the judge or jury beyond a reasonable doubt that a certain person committed these crimes. So basically, they have to make a jury think, okay, it's pretty darn certain that this guy committed the crime. Unless something really out of this world happened, I'm pretty darn sure this guy committed the crime. So it's not quite 100% certainty, but it's pretty darn close, I'd say. Now, I've compiled 3 main theories for this case. First, K intended to and actually did push, shove, or throw Sunghan off of the window. Now, obviously, for K, this is the most serious one. Second theory, while K may not have specifically intended to physically throw Sunghan out the window, he played a substantial role in making Sunghan fall out. Now guys, I know for those of you who went to law school, you're thinking, it's not just 3 theories. There's more stuff that could have happened pursuant to law. And yes, I know that. However, I think these 3 main theories are more appropriate for this video. Obviously, there are offshoots or branches or variations of these 3 main ones that I made. But anyways, when I say that K has a substantial role, sometimes, people simply have a huge influence in making someone do something. Whether it's under coercion, duress, or abuse, violence. It could be any of those, okay? So that's our second theory. Third and last main theory, that Sung-an really threw himself off of the window because he was depressed, because he was ostracized. Now guys, I honestly don't have a certain conclusion for myself. Let me know what you think. Alright, so if we were a prosecutor, as soon as we read this file, we should have a light bulb in our head. And in our minds should be a list of potential crimes or causes of action that could be brought against K. And I have a little list right here. It's not exhaustive, but I think it serves as a decent list to analyze this case. Okay, let's go down the list. First off, battery and assault. I think it'd be pretty darn easy to prove battery and assault. There was clear, physical impact and or harm here, okay? And I think a reasonable person could have, some sort of apprehension or, fright due to this. Now, the next few ones: involuntary manslaughter, voluntary manslaughter, murder. There are variations of all these depending on the jurisdiction, but I think, generally speaking, the elements to fulfill these crimes and, the legal thought behind them, there's some sort of, similarity amongst them, even amongst different jurisdictions and different countries. Now, the reason I made the theories of the case is because depending on what actually happened, different crimes would apply and be better fulfilled as opposed to other theories of the case. For example, murder. Murder would only be provable in trial if K specifically intended to throw Sung-an out the window. If he was simply being rough with Sung-an and Sung-an accidentally got, kind of shoved outside the window, I think, the highest degree of murder would be, very hard to prove. And let me be honest, guys, I think either way, it's going to be very hard to prove murder in this case. Unless, there was specific camera footage of K just throwing Sung-an out the window. Now, what if theory 2 were correct? What if K didn't specifically intend to throw Sung-an out the window, but he played a substantial role? For example, what if K was just being a terrible, terrible bully and human being, and he just intended to beat the crap out of Sung-an? He had him pushed up against the window and was just berating him and hurting him. What if, in that struggle, Sung-an, trying to get out, tried to jump over or, just squeeze himself out, but accidentally fell out the window instead? Now, for that kind of thing, I think murder would be very difficult. I think something more like manslaughter would be the easier crime to prove. So guys, that was the tragic case of Sung-an. His family still does not have closure as to what happened. It's stated that media outlets are unable to reach and talk to K. So guys, let me know what you think. Oftentimes, I think you guys, have a better handle on getting conclusions than I do. I laid it out for you, so I want to discuss this with you guys a little bit. Feel free to comment down below or hit me up on Instagram or Twitter. All in all, it's such a sad story, and I think we can all agree that parents should delve a little bit deeper into their kids' social lives sometimes and try to see if, maybe their children are doing okay and if their friends are really friends with good intent. So, that was episode 3 of Illumi Stories. Have a good night.